Hello, kids, and a good afternoon. It is 12:07. Howdy ho. I hope everybody's doing well. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show getting underway for another day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How you doing? Everything going well so far? Good morning. Hope the afternoon's going well. It's only 7 minutes old. Thank you for being with us. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're certainly appreciative of it. We have a full 180 minutes. I say full. I mean, I know that there's about a 6-minute thing on the front end and there's about a minute thing on the back end, but you know what I'm talking about. It's 3 hours of what I'm sure will be talk radio excellence on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll hand off to Brian Wilson around the 3 o'clock hour or thereabouts, but we've plenty to do between now and then, and I hope you're able to stick around for every single moment of it. It's episode 589 of our proceedings today, 589. It is also LFT 102. You know what? I've decided we need to formalize LFT. We need to formalize what I'm trying to do with my hair here. Bell K, I'm going to demand that you got a little hallelujah over there? You got a little something, like just a quick like hallelujah. I mean, that's our that's more of our breaking news announcement deal. But if you give it, right there in the middle of the old hallelujah chorus, there's one. I just want one good hallelujah, like one thing like that, so that we can have that right after I tell you what day it is in our Locks for Trump experiment. If you're not aware, I've decided not to cut my hair until we have a new president-elect. That's the way that I put it, just in case they steal it again in November and I have to suffer through long hair for the next 4 years. And I will. And I will. That's how much confidence I have. That I don't know how I'm going to get out of this if they steal the election, actually, now that I think about it, but I'll figure something out. One way or the other, it's Locks for Trump Day 102 and episode 589. Lots to discuss. I want to go over yet again. Why is it? Let me distract myself. Squirrel. Hello, Belle. How are you? I'm very excited. Thank you.
I'm good.
I'm excited about being back in. I don't know. I'm out of studio one day. I'm excited about being back in studio. I was off Monday. Mm-hmm. Cameron Smith
here.
At a wedding on Sunday. I brought the envelope that I was talking about yesterday on the butterflies.
Right.
You remember the butterfly conversation? Yep. Here's the envelope for everybody to see. Is Super Talk TV up and running right now?
Yep.
There it is. Here's the envelope.
That had a single butterfly in it.
All right, so it's Matthew and Rhiannon, June 9, 2024. Everybody can see it there. And everybody got one of these butterfly envelopes. And inside there was a little thing, and they told you not to squish it when they gave it to you. And then you were to open it, and when they were walking down the aisle, and you open it, and a butterfly, a magical, beautiful butterfly, which ended up looking very, very much like a moth, which I get. But I did a deeper dive on the Clearwater Butterfly Company. They shipped these to you. They shipped them.
Well, you didn't think the bride went out and grabbed them herself, did you?
No, I didn't. I thought maybe they brought them to you. I didn't know how it worked. We're dealing with live animals, after all. Speaking of animals, we got a tour group outside of the studio. Do you want me to flash them? Show a little nip?
No.
No?
No.
Why not?
Are there children involved?
Yes.
Oh, no. Absolutely. No.
Tell Jay Harper to moon him. Tell Jay I'll give him any amount of money if he moons him. Tell him, hey, Harper, Mac Murray would have mooned him. Shh, don't tell him. See if he does it. Newsroom peer pressure. Harper's back. He's listening to me. He's like, I want none. I want none of this. I want nothing to do.
No, man. I would get us in more trouble. That's why I'm staying silent.
It's good to see I've decided I'm going to call him Harp. I don't know. I don't know if he likes it or not.
That's cool. You wouldn't be the first.
Harp.
Hey, man, I've heard it. I mean, I hear J-Ski. I hear, hey, it's all good.
J Harp is his street name.
J Harp?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But, his friends could just call him the Harp. I like it. All right, the tour group moved on. Maybe they heard of our threats. Anyway, so they, just real quick, I'll cover this for you before we get into the serious stuff. If you did not hear the show yesterday in the 2 o'clock hour, this wedding that I went to, I've never experienced this. You can release doves. You can release, any number of, for some reason, people feel it necessary to incorporate animals into their wedding. And I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just throwing it out there. You don't need, you know what? if you want your pet dog to bring the ring down the aisle and give the ring to the bride or the groom, and the pet dog decides to run off after the squirrel and jumps in the lake and there goes the ring, well, you had that coming. You had that coming.
Which really is not that far of a difference from having the little child in the family do it, and he decides to sit down at the end of the aisle and not bother to bring the ring down.
Oh, they did the kid thing with the flower girl,
right?
And she was awesome. Because they lead them up, they lead them up to a certain point, and then they've got to go on their own. And there was a bridesmaid, or one of the bridal folks was up there, come on, and she like it was pretty funny. The crowd she would like wander to an aisle, and then she would get back on track, and then she would wander to somebody else, and then somebody else would notice her. It's pretty funny. So. We received these little envelopes, and we're told that there's a live creature inside of them, which I was immediately against this. I wanted no part in it, but I took one, as a dutiful wedding attendee. And the preacher, and I won't belabor the story because I told it yesterday, and I hope you were listening, the pastor, the officiant, told us to release these. We are to release them at the end of the ceremony as the bride and groom walk down the aisle. They're to be released. And you can imagine how beautiful, movie-esque it would be. That there are beautiful, gorgeous, you picture in your mind monarch butterflies fluttering about in all of their splendor, yellow and orange, and beauty abounds. And what a glorious and magical moment, all captured on film and in photograph. In actuality, what happened was we opened our packets, and the butterflies that looked more like moth than butterfly, but whatever. I mean, I'm sure that they were real butterflies. They're actually called something in particular, like painted butterflies or something like that. So they just wanted to stay in their packet, Belle. All they wanted to do was just sit there. They just sat there, and so you kind of encourage them. That's what people were doing, like all over. So I wasn't able to do this visual, so I'm just going to stand up. And so for those of you watching on Super Talk TV, this. You know what happened when they did that?
They fell to the ground.
All the butterflies fell to the ground. That's right. And so many of them courageously gathered themselves together and managed to take flight and get the hell out of there. Some of them were not so lucky, and those that were not so lucky were a part of the butterfly massacre of 2024.
Well, thank God that didn't happen with doves.
True. Paul! Did I tell the story yesterday? I forget. I was just telling Han the story of the kids after the ceremony. The one kid holding the butterfly in her hands. There was an older kid and a couple of younger kids, and they were walking somewhere, and the younger kid had her hands cupped, and she's like, I hope it doesn't die. I hope it doesn't die. And the older kid seemed to be a little over it, said, it's okay. There are plenty of them. Meaning butterflies. And so they go off somewhere, I would assume, to release the butterfly that the little girl was holding. And about 3 minutes later, I see the same kids, and they're walking back from wherever they came or wherever they went. And the little girl's got a different look on her face, and she says to her older sister, I assume, well, I guess that's okay. There are plenty of them. So we know what happened there.
Yep.
Love is like a butterfly.
They should have played this song. That is true. Love is like a butterfly. Very nice. So you want to guess how much this cost? 100 butterflies with custom made and custom colored little paper packets with your name and date on there. You can customize whatever you want to put on the front. And then there's the Clearwater Butterfly ink.
$250.
Did you look?
No.
You looked.
I didn't. I swear to God, I did not look.
You promise?
Promise.
You want to know how much it was?
$225.
$250.
$250.
You got it right.
That makes sense though, because if you think about it in terms of the individual package and what they're going to try to put in terms of cost versus profit.
So they, you know what they do? They raise them. Obviously, they don't catch them in the wild, and they send them in. Apparently, if they get them to a certain temperature, the butterflies will go into a state of hibernation, or just I don't know, they become catatonic. And then you have to get them out and you have to keep them in a non-sunlit but warmer environment for at least an hour before the ceremony in order to get them back active again. I don't think our group of butterflies got warmed up as much as they should have, considering the amount of butterflies that just went straight down. Dive bomb. Anyway, that was my Sunday. 12:17, let's talk about Wednesday. So I want to go over my concern, and I felt, I'll be honest with you, I don't evaluate anything based on how other people feel about it. And I hope that's part of why you enjoy the show. I hope that's part of why you listen. I do not assess anything, but as a matter of fact, if the prevailing wind is going a particular direction, my propensity is to go in the opposite direction. I don't know why. It's just something that is inside of me. I do not willingly and gleefully follow the herd in anything. So I felt somewhat on an island on my position in the immediate aftermath of the Hunter Biden guilty verdict, which was this, and I want to reiterate it, and I tried to do so as many times as possible yesterday because I don't want it to be misconstrued. I don't give one rip about Hunter Biden. As a matter of fact, I am elated that he was found guilty. However, there is a concern that I have regarding this case, and it has to do with you and me in the Second Amendment and how I know that liberals operate. Liberals take advantage of things where they can take advantage of them. And I am concerned with a government that has the amount of power that gets to dictate to you what they determine you are or are not addicted to, or what you are or are not a user of when it comes to your Second Amendment rights or any of your constitutional rights. The political left, and I'm going to put two seemingly unrelated stories together today during the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour, and I'm curious your comments on them. You have, on one hand, the aftermath of the Hunter Biden trial and the suggestion that, and it's almost become embedded into the narrative amongst conservatives as well, that the government has the right to ask this question to begin with. Much like the Godfather Rush Limbaugh, I'm going to reject the premise of all of this to begin with. The outcome is fine. Hunter Biden's found guilty. Joe Biden will pardon him, by the way. If everyone knows that, right? Well, Matt, Joe Biden said he wouldn't. Oh, how dare he publicly stated, and he gave his word as a Biden. It is a fascinating aspect to where we live in the United States of America today and how we live in the United States of America today, that you have major media outlets just unilaterally deciding that Joe Biden is a truth teller. Joe Biden has spent, don't get me on my rant pant alert. Joe Biden has spent over 50 years of his adult life lying his ass off, and we suddenly are going to think he's a truth teller? The media's like, well, Joe Biden was asked, and Joe Biden said so. I guess that's the way it is.
He's either going to pardon him this coming January, or he's going to pardon him in 4 years from January. And what are you going to do about it after he does it?
Well, I don't think...
Because if he's out of office, he's out of office, and everybody's just going to go, well, there's nothing we can do about that, and move on.
I don't think he waits until then. I think here's the way that I would suggest it goes down. Joe Biden's waiting to the election. I believe the judge telegraphed in the case that he is not going to sentence Hunter Biden until after the election. Now, he says it'll be 4 months. That would put it in October. I promise you the Department of Justice and Joe Biden's administration will weigh in on the sentencing, suggesting that it would somehow affect the outcome of an election. Suddenly, they're going to care about something in the legal system that might affect the outcome of an election because, after all, rules are for thee, not for me. So to hell with Donald Trump and how that affects the outcome. We're worried about Hunter Biden. So they will use that as a way to push the sentencing of Hunter Biden until after November 5th. And if you think about it, once November 5th happens, Joe can do whatever he wants. Political consequences be damned. So if Joe Biden doesn't get reelected, he's going to pardon him. And if he does get reelected, he's going to pardon him. Hunter Biden is never going to look at a jail cell. And for those of you that think it's going to happen, I'm sorry that I'm the one that called the baby ugly, but it's not going to happen because Democrats don't play fair. Liberals don't play fair. And they have an entire mainstream media complex behind them helping facilitate their Bravo Sierra. And that's exactly what it is. What my concern is are the ultimate consequences on you and me and the rest of the American people with regard to what this means for the Second Amendment. And my argument was yesterday and has always been that I don't believe in giving government an amount of power so as the government gets to decide what is an addiction and what is not when it comes to our Second Amendment rights. And I did reading yesterday about Form 4473. I did some subsequent reading last night. And friends, this is bad. If they wanted to, they could crack down on this to the point where they could suggest that your addiction to by the language written in Form 4473, your addiction to caffeine, and you know you're addicted to it, could preclude you from owning a gun. Caffeine is a stimulant. I'm going to read it to you again. None of this is a defense of Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden's a scumbag. Hunter Biden is a scumbag from the scumbaggery of the scumbaggerist. But that doesn't mean that there aren't issues involving this case that are of concern to those of us who don't believe in giving government that amount of power. So happy for him that he got convicted. He'll never see a jail cell. His father will ensure that. We'll break it down once again for you today on the show and get your thoughts on it. Speaking of Frozen Joe, has one man had any more nicknames than Joe Biden? Sleepy Joe, Sloppy Joe. I call him Frozen Joe now because you see that video, that 60 seconds?
It's just sad.
I mean, it's just, and for me, it's the eye. If you look into the eyes, I mean, it's the stillness juxtaposed with everybody else having a good time and enjoying themselves. And but it's the hands. No person that isn't going through serious mental or age-related issues, nobody stands like that. Nobody holds their hands like that. It's creepy. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks creepy. It's almost like, you know, if he was completely there, I would say he wants to put his hands in his pockets. But as a politician, you're taught not to do that most of the time. But he looks like I don't know where to put my hands, and he just kind of hangs them there.
Mm-hmm. We used to in the world of theater. It's a big deal. If you become, like, people naturally use their hands. People naturally, they don't think about what they do with their hands. It's the old Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands, that kind of thing. That's a theater thing. Like, I grew up in the theater, and I was a theater major in school for a while before I left that behind. And in the world of theater, I'll tell you, in the world of theater, amateur actors or those that aren't experienced, they focus on their hands, and they don't, if you think about your hands and what your hands are doing in any given moment, it'll start freaking you out. Because you don't think about it, and it just happens naturally. When you start thinking about it, it becomes unnatural. And that was an incredibly, I think it was a Mitch McConnell moment. I mean, he was out. He was just, the eyes are open, but nobody's home. 25 after the hour, Libertarian Lunchtime, just getting underway. Glad to have you with us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy here for my buddies at Craft Body Scan. Craft Body Scan is an incredible addition to the Nashville medical community, and I want to tell you all about what they do and their CT scan technology that's pretty amazing. You know, June is National Cancer Survivors Month, and our friends at Craft Body Scan, they're paying tribute to those individuals who have fought bravely against cancer and those who continue their battle with an amazing offer all month long till the end. Craft Body Scan is offering a couple's heart and lung scan for only $99. It's an incredible savings of over $2,600 off the regular price. That's an amazing offer, but it is real, folks, and it is for you, your spouse, or your partner. Early detection is obviously life-changing. I felt so good after I went through the process. I sat down with the gang at Craft Body Scan. We went over medical history. We just talked about things that I might be concerned with and what I was dealing with. And then I did a full body scan. Heart and lung scan available, full body scan available too. which is pretty incredible. And I got the A-OK. I got the thumbs up on my heart, on my lungs, on the various parts of my body. And that's pretty cool because you sleep better having that knowledge. Plus, if there is something going on, early detection is life-saving. Craftbodyscan.com for more information or call 615-436-1000. 436-1000. Craft Body Scan.
A new consumer price index report released this morning, and an NBA legend passes. We'll have those stories at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Harper. That's coming up in just a moment or two. I was running a little bit late during the first segment. My apologies for that. 615-737-9986 if you want to get on board either the membersnutrition.com super text line, or you obviously can call the show. I'm open for business all 3 hours. 615-737-9986. It is my pleasure to turn a monologue into a dialogue. And if there's two of you, we can turn a dialogue into a trialogue. I mean, hell, we can have a quadrilogue if you really wanted to. Bell K can join in here.
Don't be a pervert.
Too late. 615-737-9986. By the way, it's episode 589. Did you give the title?
No, sir.
We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, on the Super Talk television side of things. For the masochist in the listening audience that want to see what radio people look like, here we are. You will not see Headless Bell. That's why we call him Headless Bell. But he does entitle the episodes. And today's episode, 30 Minute In, is titled
Matt Murphy, looking for his own conviction so he can be one of the cool kids. Libertarian lunch, noon to 3. Courthouse cafeteria.
So just to go over it again, by the way, they've got in Birmingham. I'm sorry I got distracted. One minute of your time, Bell. That's 2 today. In Beeham, they have what is called the Cumulus Cafe that they've set up with some company local, where if you go in, like if we went into our break room,
right,
there are cases with drinks, beverages, like sandwiches. There's 5-hour energy drink. There's there's breakfast stuff. There's lunch stuff.
And it's all for free.
Well, it's not for free, but you check yourself out. Like you take
like
it
in the airport with those.
There's got a little scanner, and everything's obviously on video surveillance. So it's a closed system. In other words, they know who's in the building.
Right.
So if the money doesn't match the product that has been taken, they'll go back, they'll look at the video, and they'll figure out who's stealing. But yeah, it's a quote unquote honor system until they catch somebody stealing. But they got all these food items. And
so is it cash or does it scan?
No, it's a card.
It's like your key card works for that as well as getting you in the building.
No, you use your debit. You use your debit card or
okay.
your credit card.
Okay,
yeah, that would actually be cool. Then they just deduct it from your paycheck.
No, I don't want that.
No.
No, I get enough of that from the government. I don't need it from my own company.
I mean, I think the drinks were a little less expensive too. We didn't pay. I mean, how much are we paying for a 12-ounce over there? $1.50 if you use your card.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then there's a convenience fee.
I know
added,
that's exactly
added to that.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
they only get away with that because we don't have a convenience store within walking distance. They'd have to cut the price if we did that.
You know what? And those so and so's, they don't provide us a refrigerator so we can cool our own. Oh wait, they do. There's like 4.
When we still owned that building on 2nd Avenue, there was a convenience store literally just across the street, and the beverages over there were 75 cents.
Yeah, but that was like in '86, right?
No, that was last year.
All right, Jay Harper's got the news, and we got more on the Second Amendment and what this thing means for you. Your telephone calls on the way, plus the WNBA and the Women's Basketball Association continues to crap the bed. More on that coming up. It is 33 after.
Good afternoon. It is 12:33, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Partly sunny. We're up to 81 degrees now. A full forecast in 2 minutes. Consumer prices rose 3.3% in May compared to the same month last year, according to a federal report released earlier today. The Consumer Price Index, it tracks all kinds of stuff, including groceries, gas prices, airline tickets. The inflation report comes ahead of a big announcement today by the Federal Reserve on interest rates, but the Fed not expected to lower interest rates today. It reportedly wants to see if this trend, if it is in fact a trend, will continue. And sad news in the sports world. All-time NBA great Jerry West passed away earlier today at the age of 86.
Well, Jerry West is, as Adam Silver said in his statement, one of the giants in the sport. He arguably had the greatest life of anyone in the history of basketball when you look at the totality of his accomplishments.
That's ESPN's Ten Bomb Tom for some more on West's legacy. That is the latest news. We've got weather next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and, it is that time of year where the pests are coming out of the yard and trying to get into your house. I mean, that's what they want, right? They just want on your property. They want to lounge on your back deck. They want to get into the walls. They want to get in there and, eat your food. They want to do the things that you enjoy doing inside of your home, and you don't want that. These are interlopers that need to be stopped, eliminated, crushed with U.S. Pest. It's what U.S. Pest does. J.K., Erica, and the rest of the team, they're so good at what they do. They're a fine, patriotic company. They love this country, and I love that they love this country. It makes it even more special for me to talk about them, but you wouldn't use them. You wouldn't do business with them. I mean, love of country is one thing, and that's a bonus, but they get the job done when it comes to termites, when it comes to roaches, when it comes to spiders, when it comes to all those things that you want to eliminate from your home. You need protection from the experts. You need U.S. Pest. USPest.com. USPest.com for more information, or give them a call. Schedule a free inspection today. No obligation. 615-590-1260. 590-1260. Get protected with US Pest. $12:39, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Libertarian Lunch on Super Talk 99.7. Glad to have you with us. Thank you for your time today, whatever time you give us. I know it's precious, it's valuable, and we appreciate each and every moment of it. All right, just to reiterate, I don't want to belabor this point, but I just want to go over it one more time. My concerns with what happened yesterday. The Biden administration, the Biden legal team, Hunter Biden's legal team, were unable to make an appropriate argument with regard to his violation of Form 4473 and subsequent prosecution. If Democrats have a complete lack of respect for the Constitution, they have a complete lack of respect for the law, so none of this could happen to better people. I'm just trying to pull it back from our focused field of vision, and that focus being on Hunter Biden, and apply this standard more broadly to your average American. Because I do not believe some of us would be looking at this the same way and focusing on the same things if this guy's name was Hunter Smith as opposed to Hunter Biden. I understand why that is. I understand that the revelations about the laptop matters. I understand that the revelations about his desire or his willingness, his seeming ability to flaunt the law matters. But at the same time, I think the Second Amendment matters more. The Biden legal team could not and would not use what I would think to be the more appropriate defense in this case, which ultimately led to his guilt. Now, he probably would have been found guilty one way or the other because he was guilty of violating the law as the law was written. I would have argued a constitutional point. Now, I'm not an attorney. I don't claim to be an attorney. There are many attorneys that listen to this show that are far better versed in this than me. There are plenty of people that understand Tennessee law and the laws with regard to gun ownership better than me. There are plenty of folks with the Tennessee Firearms Association that listen to the show. John Harris, big fan of the show. So they're welcome to call in and help fill in some of these gaps. But broadly speaking, right now, you have to agree to something that I don't think most of us could live up to in a court of law. On your gun form. I've filled out plenty of these gun forms. I've filled out 2 of these gun forms in the state of Tennessee because I bought 2 guns here. And I don't know that most of us could live up to the language. Section 21 of Form 4473 demands that we answer the following questions by checking or marking either a yes or no box to the right of the questions. Are you the actual transferee or buyer? And on it goes. Do you intend to sell or dispose of this firearm to commit a crime? Are you under indictment? Are you a convicted felon? Are you a fugitive from justice? And then we get down to question F. Are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance? That question is not limited to unlawful drugs. That question is broadly interpreted as lawful and unlawful drugs. It is a question about drug addiction, not about unlawful drug addiction. And it includes language like stimulants and depressants. According to this information, any one of you that are currently on Adderall, and you feel like you have to have your Adderall to function, you're not allowed to own a gun according to the federal government. Or I'm sorry, you're not allowed to purchase a gun according to the federal government. As a matter of fact, if you want to extrapolate this out to its natural conclusion, are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance? Pharmaceutical drugs. Well, the stimulant portion of that indicates to me that if I wanted to, I could argue that those of you that are addicted to caffeine, the government could determine that you're not allowed to own a gun. So my concern yesterday, not about Hunter, I don't give a rip about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden's a scumbag. Once again, I've established that. My concern is, are we willing to concede that the government gets to determine when you are addicted or not addicted to something? Are you giving the government the right to determine what is and is not addiction as it pertains to your right to own a gun? Because let me promise you something. When the government has that ability, and if the government hones in and focuses in on that ability, they will not err on the side of you owning a gun. They will err on the side of you not owning a gun. They will always err on the side of you not owning a gun. I don't believe in giving the government that opportunity or that responsibility. That is not the government's responsibility. And frankly, my understanding of the Second Amendment, I'm loath to suggest that the government has any ability to determine whether or not you should be able to own a gun based on what you consume in your own body. So long as gun ownership should be predicated only on whether or not you have unlawfully violated the rights of other people. Or it should only be limited in that regard. Am I off base here? And that applies to Hunter Biden too. My standards don't change because I'm talking about a scumbag. Not when it comes to the Second Amendment. However, these people were hoisted by their own petard, and here's why. Because they refused to make this constitutional argument. They were unable to make this constitutional argument. Instead of what they ought to have done, because I think this sets a bad precedent. His lawyers should have argued that this is against his constitutional rights per the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, which says shall not be infringed. The argument then goes that if you have not violated the rights of other people, regardless of the illegality of the act of consuming the drugs, by the way, this provision within Form 4473 does not make any distinction between legal drugs and illegal drugs. It is both. It applies to both. In this case, it was illegal drugs, obviously. However, the argument would go, it is still a violation of a Second Amendment rights to ask the question. And I am a little bit surprised, maybe I shouldn't be, at the silence of some of my 2A believers. They just sit back and just allow this to. Do you not think they're going to use this against you at some point? The government absorbs this and turns it around. The government doesn't want you to have guns, especially the liberals in government. However, for Hunter Biden, they weren't about to argue that this is a Second Amendment violation because they don't really believe in the Second Amendment. And so instead, they made the argument that Hunter Biden wasn't actually addicted to anything. And so he answered the question honestly, which is just dumb. You should have argued that the question was inappropriate on constitutional grounds, as opposed to arguing, I wasn't really addicted, while he's, smoking crack every 20 damn minutes. If you do not believe that they will not continue to use this against other Americans, I don't know, man. Let's just wait and see. Shall not be infringed applies to everyone, including people that we don't like. And I believe it takes, and I'm not just saying this because I happen to take up this position, but it takes a strong position and a strong personality to say, despite my disgust with the person that I happen to be talking about, the issue is more important. Because I do not believe that it will be very long, especially if Joe Biden secures re-election. I do not believe that it will be very long before they engage the American people with regard to our gun ownership rights. What in the world do you think Democrats would really do if they had a filibuster-proof Senate and they had the House of Representatives and they had Joe Biden as president who wouldn't know his butt from a hole in the ground? So the shadowy figures that are actually running government, the bureaucracy, the ATFs of the world, or AFTs as Joe Biden calls them, the FBIs of the world. Look, I'm not saying the rank and file believe this, because I know many in the rank and file and they are good people. But the upper echelons, their job becomes exponentially easier if they disarm the public. And the criminals will still have guns, but you know what? They don't care. Criminals have guns now. What say you? 615-737-9986. It's 1249 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief wants to see you. Are you currently in pain? Do you need a specialist, a chiropractic care physician that can help you alleviate that pain wherever it is emanating on your body? Well, that's the Dr. Gill Center, and for the last 30 years, Dr. Gill and his team have been utilizing their specialty care to alleviate pain all across Middle Tennessee, and they're bringing new technologies in on a regular basis. They were the first to bring spinal decompression into Middle Tennessee, and it has alleviated so much pain. They're now invested in bringing soft tissue technology like the Class 5 laser system, the red light therapy, that can help assist you in your soft tissue needs. So whether it's spinal in nature or soft tissue, wherever you hurt, back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain, wherever pain, the Dr. Gill Center can help. Give them a call. Make the appointment today. Don't suffer through popping pills or having to rely on needles to block the pain any longer. Let's get this thing handled with the Dr. Gill Center. Call 615-882-4838. 882-4838. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the Dr. Gill Center.
President Biden, he's on his way overseas to the Group of Seven Summit. The primary topic of discussion, wars. We'll have that coming up at 1 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you so much, Jay Harper. Wrapping up this segment of the show with this conversation, and we'll move on to a few other things coming up in the next hour, to include a follow-up on the coveted school, how the media is projecting on the rest of the American people with regard to what they think is going to happen if a Trump presidency should occur post-2024 election, or a continuation of the Biden disaster comes about, God forbid. We'll discuss that. In the meantime, a lot of reaction on the super text line. 7274 has a position that I respect. I understand it. The keyword is unlawfully. Caffeine, Adderall with prescription, antidepressant meds with prescription are not unlawful. I would disagree with you. I mean, on the caffeine front, yeah, I mean, I understand that that's a more difficult. That's an extreme example. But the question is, are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or, and this is the key phrase in my opinion, or any other controlled substance? That means prescription medicine counts. That means Adderall counts. That means antidepressant meds count. All of those count. I disagree. I mean, I understand how you could claim that unlawful. If you think that the government's going to argue that unlawfully is a limiting word as opposed to or any other controlled substance, there's a controlled substance list. It is 21 pages long. The federal government classifies controlled substances, I think, into 5 subcategories, and I just looked it up. 21 pages of controlled substances of all manner of prescription drugs and illegal drugs, and they make no distinction between the two. So that's the ultimate point. And then there's the case of, you know, as I brought up yesterday, that the pot smokers who are legally smoking pot, and look, I'm not here to defend the pot smokers, but the pot smokers legally smoking pot out in Colorado can't legally own a gun, despite the fact that what they're doing is perfectly legal in the state of Colorado. The federal government sees it differently, and that's not federalism. That's not states' rights. That's the federal government usurping the right of the state to determine their own laws in their own states, and that is encroaching on the 50 separate experiments that are the United States of America. Oh, look, is that Elvis on the line? We have Elvis calling? Huh. Yabba dabba doo, the king is gone, and so are you. We'll be back in just a moment with Elvis, maybe a little more George Jones. Right now, some Jay Harper. The Harp on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's exactly 1 p.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Plenty of sunshine, 80 degrees. We'll get a full forecast to you in just 2 minutes. President Biden on his way to Italy for the Group of Seven summit. That includes the U.S., Canada, France, Germany, Italy, of course, as well as Japan and the U.K. At the summit tomorrow, Mr. Biden is expected to propose a $50 billion loan for Ukraine funded by profits from seized Russian assets. The White House also announcing new sanctions on Russia. With more on that plan, here's Patrick Rivell in Bari, Italy, where world leaders will get together.
What's very important about this new round is that it expands so-called secondary sanctions. It's now going to become much more risky for financial institutions and other businesses to do business with any Russian entity that is sanctioned, and that's an effort to try and put more pressure on Russia and signal to Vladimir Putin that the Western resolve and the Western aid to Ukraine is not going to flag.
Also at the summit, world leaders expected to discuss the Israel-Hamas war. Hamas now saying it wants changes made to President Biden's ceasefire proposal that also has UN backing. On board Air Force One on his way to Italy earlier today, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the U.S. will work with Egypt and Qatar to bridge final gaps.
Our aim is to bring this process to a conclusion. Our view is that the time for haggling is over. It's time for a ceasefire to begin and for the hostages to come home.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, folks, Matt Murphy Defend Systems is a wonderful organization that helps businesses, church leaders, school leaders, any place that people gather. If you're a decision maker in those places, I want you to listen up because Brink Fiddler and Defend Systems can assist you. They're a life safety and security consultation firm. They're based right here in Middle Tennessee. They have consulted many school organizations, many church organizations, and many businesses like Cumulus Nashville. As a matter of fact, we've got new training coming up later on. Next week, I think, our new training is on the way where Brink will come out and remind those of us in our facility what to do in the unlikely event of workplace violence, in the unlikely event, God forbid, that you ever have gun violence in your presence. Defense Systems is there for you. Knowledge is power. And so you need to know what to do to respond to an active shooter situation or a violent situation or an intruder. What is your action plan? Do you know? Do you know anything about rapid response medical training? Because if you don't, Brink Fiddler and his team can help you understand it, and better yet, help your employees understand it. This is not to scare people. This is to arm them with power. Reach out today at 615-236-6484 to find out the various options for your facility. 236-6484, defensesystems.com. That's defensesystems.com. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we begin hour number 2 right now. Thank you for being with us. It's 1:05. A good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. It's expected to get a little hot, a little steamy this afternoon. Right now, I've got 80 degrees in Nashville and getting up to about 83, 84 degrees today. Tomorrow up to 90. By Friday and Saturday, it's up to 92 degrees. And then Sunday, have you seen the forecast for Sunday? Sunny all of these days, so beautiful sunny conditions tomorrow. Sunny conditions Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Really no rain in the forecast, no clouds in the forecast until next week. But you know what? It's almost summertime, so it's about time that we get to 92, 93 degrees. And then by Sunday, the high is expected to get up to 97. So a heat wave on the way. Prepare accordingly. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to be a part of the show. 615-737-WWTN. We'll update you on everything we know about the Covenant School shooting as far as we know it. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes. But first, I saw where 3 of our Tennessee United States representatives, we are well represented as Republicans or conservatives and the like, in the congressional baseball game. U.S. Representatives Chuck Fleischman, who I just met recently at an event held in Nashville at Vanderbilt University a few days ago, good guy, Representative Andy Ogles and Tim Burchett are set to play in the 2024 congressional baseball game for charity tonight at Nationals Park. Burchett, Fleischman, and Ogles are a part of last year's roster, are among the 34 Republican players set to play in Wednesday's game. Today's game, Democrats have about 25 players for their game. And we thought we would reach out and see if there's any pregame motivation that we can offer Congressman Tim Burchett, and he has agreed to come on with us on short notice. Congressman, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Y'all called, and I was in the middle of a committee meeting. I'm set to testify here in about 10 minutes, so I thought I could do a quick interview.
Let's do a quick. Well, this is an easy one, Tim, because I'm asking you about baseball, not about Congress, not about all that nonsense, and that's far more important. But you ready for the game tonight?
Yeah, well, the truth is my shoulders are really getting sore because I've been having to carry this team all year, and and I think the strategy this year is last year. Until we get up 16 points, that I will get in. They don't put me in early because I would ruin it all due to my professionalism and skills out on the diamond, and then, everybody would leave. So they keep me out to the end and then put me in. So, but last year I got a hit and 2 RBIs. You might have heard of me.
You got a baseball. Y'all get baseball cards, don't you?
Oh yeah. And I always tell people, save that, one day it'll be worth nothing.
So
everybody gets them. I mean, it's an ego fest. I mean, some of these guys literally have trainers back home, Democrats and Republicans. They work out with their local semi-pro and some pro teams and their college teams. And, I'd be good to work out with my dadgum local T-ball team or something. we play one game, thank goodness, because literally, I mean, we have some guys, all they do is run bases. You know, because we fall apart out there. And last year we pulled through, I think our record was 3 hamstrings. I can remember one practice. I can't remember if it was my first or second year. Literally, a guy pulled his growing muscle. It popped so loud, I heard it. Ugh. He laid on the ground. He was gray. I thought he had a heart attack.
Oh, no.
And then the pitcher, he threw the ball, and it was a little pop-up down the third base line. He went over, and then he pulled a hamstring. He was out. And then on the way out, a guy had a heart attack in the parking lot. And so that was one practice. So, and we start early, and it's just, and Washington is not the crime-free place that it is. I mean, not all the crime is happening on the floor of Congress.
Well, that's true.
Our first practice, or first or second practice, I can't remember, and it's not necessarily in the best part of town because there is no good part of town up here. And I remember they had this SWAT team out there. And of course, we have armed security out because of, they had the shooting years ago, and Steve Scalise and several others were wounded. And we pulled up, and the SWAT team's out there, and we thought, oh, wow, we got a little extra security this year. That's cool. And as it turned out, they were doing a drug bust over in a local housing facility, I'll say. and they were staging it in our parking lot, and they told us we need to get out of there, and of course we did. And so, it's a game for charity. They'll raise about $2 million this year, and they'll actually fill up the bowl of Nat Stadium this year in some of the upper decks. So it's a
lot of fun.
Deal.
I've been. I mean, I went a few years ago to root on my then Congressman Gary Palmer. How's Gary out on the field? He's got to be getting a little old.
Well, Gary is he's gone to third base coach now.
Oh, okay.
He's usually the third base coach. Gary's a friend of mine out of Alabama. I know Gary well, and but yeah, he.
Will you please, Congressman, say Matt Murphy was despondent when he found out that you were no longer a player coach, that you had gone to just a coaching role. That's very bothersome.
I'm going to look up what the word. I'm going to Google despondent when I leave here, and then I'll decide if I'll say anything. But I'll just say you were troubled. How about that?
There you go. I was very, very, very concerned that he's not on the field. One player that will be on the field, and I don't know how much he'll get to do is Steve Scalise. You mentioned the 2017 tragedy that happened in Alexandria, Virginia.
He is our leadoff hitter, and he will play the first inning. And he has a pinch runner. His hip is giving him so much trouble from the shooting now, and of course he's a cancer survivor. I mean he's one, as President Trump would say, he is one tough hombre, and I play first base, of course, and he's second base, and we have a great relationship. And I love Steve Scalise.
Hey, one of our loyal listeners, Josh, just wrote in and said, "Hey, tell Tim I'll donate $1,000 to charity or to his campaign if he beans a Democrat." What do you think?
Well, if I get that, it will be something because like I said, I never get out on the field. I'm the third string first baseman. You have to realize my meteoric success. I was fifth string. Well, some guy got hurt, and another guy went to the outfield, so I jumped right up to third string. So if I'm on the field, I'll be the oldest guy. Fleischman's a little older than I am, but if I get to hit, I'll probably be the oldest person who gets to hit tonight.
Well, good luck to you. I mean, you come in. It's my understanding the Democrats have all these ringers that they try to load up with. So if you
they do. Last year when we did our victory lap, you walk out and you do this thing and you shake everybody's hand. I was like, who are these guys? I never even knew some of them. Of course, and you remember their coach last year. You can Google it. She ran by us and flipped us a bird, and I thought, well, that was real ladylike. But anyway,
that wasn't Sanchez. Was Linda Sanchez? Was that?
Oh yeah, it was delightful. That was very delightful.
Hey, it's all in good. It's all in good. She was just telling you you're number one.
Yeah, obviously it was. But anyway, that was interesting. That just tells you the level of competition and class that we have out here.
I think it's a great night in Washington, D.C. because you have enough people on the field that you don't have a quorum to steal more of our money in Congress. So that's a good thing.
I agree, brother. I agree. The longer we're off the floor of Congress, the better we're doing. Everybody's griping, saying the Republicans aren't doing anything. I don't want us to do anything. We need to stop and figure out how America is going to survive all this craziness that we're doing up here.
Saying no is an affirmative act.
Absolutely.
So
100%.
keep
brother.
saying-
Keep Franklin said that.
Keep saying, well, I mean, I don't know. Give somebody credit besides me. Keep saying no up there, Tim Burchett, and do well tonight. We'll be following from the beautiful state of Tennessee. I just wanted to pick on you a moment. If you don't get a hit, don't come back on the show without a hit.
Okay, it's like it'll be on ESPN 12 tonight. So
I'll see you. Take care.
Right beside creek fishing with Joe Dance. It's Bill Dance's third cousin.
Oh, Bill Dance is way ahead of you guys in terms of programming.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Heck yeah, I'd be watching Bill Dance. That's for sure. Thanks, brother.
All right, man. I'll see you. There's Congressman Tim Burchett. Just wanted to have some fun with him. It's not all heartache and headache. I mean, they have this charity ball game that goes on once a year. Tell you a quick story about this. Speaking of Gary Palmer, not to get too serious. That's a lot of fun, and you know what? They try to be collegial. I guess is that the word? It might not be the word. One way or the other, they try to be nice to one another as they best can. Cordial, sure. And then there was the media treated this like a 2-day story, and then it went away because they didn't like the narrative. They didn't like that it was a leftist. They didn't like that it was an insane, radical leftist, a Bernie Sanders supporter that came onto the field June 14th, 2017, during a practice in Alexandria, Virginia. And after scouting out their practice habits, shot up the field during a practice session for the annual baseball game in 2017. 6 people were shot. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise should have, I hate to put it this way, and I have had the honor of meeting Steve Scalise in the aftermath of all of this. There is no explanation for why Steve Scalise did not die on that baseball field. However, if you don't know the backstory to this, I would encourage you to look it up. Steve Scalise was majority whip. At the time, he was not scheduled. He decided late to go to that practice. Originally, he was not going to go to that practice. Believe it or not, all of those Congress people gathered, including then 5th Congressional District Congressman of the state of Alabama, Mo Brooks, including Gary Palmer, who serves the 6th Congressional District of the state of Alabama. And I don't know, maybe some Tennessee representatives were on the field as well. I did not note them because I was in Alabama at the time. With all of those Congress people gathered, if a member of leadership had not been there, there would have been no Capitol security. The only reason that the 2 Capitol police officers were present that day was because Steve Scalise was present that day. Had they not been there, it is possible that everyone on that field would have been killed. Every single one of them. I remember it. Like it was yesterday. I know that phrase is overused. I was on morning radio in Birmingham, and we had a great relationship with Congressman Gary Palmer, had a great relationship with Congressman Mo Brooks. At about, 6:30, maybe 6:45 in the morning, and so obviously it's 7:45 Alexandria time, I receive a random text. On air, while I'm on the air, I got a text on my cell phone from Mo Brooks. And he said, "We're okay. I'm okay. Several shot. We'll update." What? Had no idea what he was talking about. My partner at the time, Andrea Lindenberg, called. I said, we got off mic, and I said, "You need to call Mo Brooks and see what this means." And I showed her the text. And she left the room, came back in the room. We're still on the air, and she said, "There's been a shooting at a practice for a baseball game, and the Congressional baseball game was on nobody's radar screen. Nobody was thinking about it. I mean, it was just one of those things that happened in D.C., and nobody talked about it. Nobody thought about it. And we were confused. What baseball game? What are we talking about?
I didn't know that existed until the shooting happened.
Right. I mean, it was just kind of it was isolated to D.C. They raised some money. So we get on the phone and we call. We knew that Gary Palmer was an athlete, and we knew that I think we vaguely knew that he was playing. We tried to contact Gary, couldn't get a hold of Gary, got a hold of his wife because we had a good relationship with the Palmers. Miss Ann oftentimes still listens to this show. And she told us that Gary was okay, but it was a very dangerous and very fluid and active situation. And it's not about us, but we had that. I mean, it was amazing because when Mo sent us that text, it was another, you have monitors in your studio and you think of these big media networks getting story. We had that like 30 minutes. 30 minutes went by before CNN or Fox News did anything on that story. It was incredible. But if you don't know the backstory, this crazed lunatic decided that he was going to shoot up the baseball field. He decided he wanted to shoot up Republicans because he hated Republicans and hated Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera. And this is why the media dropped this story as quickly as they did. It is not that undifferent from why they're treating the Audrey Hale story the way they're treating the Audrey Hale story with regard to Covenant School. Oh, no need to talk about that anymore. Let's put that behind us because that leads us to questions that we don't feel comfortable answering. Right? So Gary, in the aftermath of the shooting, weeks and weeks later, Andre and I went. He escorted us, took us to the ball field. And we walked on the ball field, and we saw the fencing, and we saw the dugouts, and he showed us where the Capitol police car was, and he showed us where everyone was on the field. He showed us where the gunman was. And as I relate it to you 7 years later, I'm getting chills thinking about it because Gary showed us where he was, and he was one of the closer. He was on the third base side, and the gunman was on the third base side, and he was one of the closer individuals to the gunman when the gunman opened fire. Steve Scalise was at shortstop, and the gunman opened fire on Scalise first and shot him down, and Scalise lay bleeding on the field as everyone was running. Eventually, 6 individuals were shot, including, as I mentioned, Scalise, U.S. Capitol Police Officer Crystal Griner was shot in the leg, Congressional aide Zach Barth, lobbyist Matt Mika. There were tourniquets that were placed on people in the dugouts while they were still in lockdown on the field. The field was completely enclosed in fencing, in a chain link fence, and they had nowhere to go. The gunman had positioned himself at one of the 2 openings, and the only one that was actually open, the other was closed. I don't know if it was locked, but it was closed. So they didn't have anywhere to run. The point is, if Steve Scalise had not decided to go that day, the Capitol Police, the 2 officers would not have been there. Had the 2 officers not been there, every person on that field could have died at the hands of an insane leftist Bernie Sanders supporter. It just difficult to imagine. Anyway, so kudos to Tim Burchett for taking up the uniform and getting on the field. Nationals Stadium tonight. Obviously, a heightened level of security resulted from that dastardly act. We'll get to the king himself, Elvis, coming up in just a moment. 122 on Super Talk.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
President Biden, he's in Italy for the Group of Seven summit. Also, a new consumer price index report this morning, and we're going to have some Middle Tennessee housing numbers for you that you'll be interested in. That's all coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm glad the harp knows that Joe Biden's going to be in Italy, because I promise you Joe Biden does not. Hey-oh! These are the jokes, people. I'll be here all the
week. They told him they were going for gelato.
I love a gelato now.
I bet you he does too.
You know. Do you've eaten gelato? You've had some gelato?
Yeah,
some delicious gelato.
Yes.
Right. Do you feel better about eating ice cream when it's called gelato?
No, I actually feel worse because it makes me think of Jell-O.
Does it now?
Which just sounds, in my head, that sounds sweeter to me than ice cream does. When I'm sure they can be equally as bad.
I mean, ice cream, decadent. Bad for you, not supposed to eat it, put on the pounds. I mean, you and me, since we've known each other, have been fighting to lose. I mean, it's a constant battle to lose weight. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Keep the pounds off. So you feel like you're doing something wrong. You feel a certain level of shame. Gelato? Oh, this is healthy. This is Italian. Let's go.
This is made out of ice. Water's not bad.
Ever. It's like the Seinfeld episode, the fat-free yogurt.
Oh, the fat-free, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. People like,
the verdict is in. Fat.
That's good. 28 after the hour. Let's talk to Elvis, the King. Hello, Elvis.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Pretty good. Elvis, is Elvis your real name, or is it, I mean, it's okay if it is just a persona that you put on the radio.
No, it really is my name, and I got the name, but I ain't got the money.
Well, I hear you there. Sounds like a man who said that a time or two. So you probably have no patience for a knucklehead like me that makes all the Elvis, right? You've probably heard every single one of them for all of your life.
Well, some, not a whole lot.
Were you named Elvis? I mean, I don't mean to ask your age, Elvis, but curiosity compels me. Were you Elvis before Elvis was Elvis, or were you Elvis after Elvis was Elvis?
I was Elvis before Elvis was Elvis. I'm 82 years old.
Oh, wow. So you're of a similar age to Elvis.
Oh, yeah, close.
Well, thank you for calling, Mr. Elvis. I appreciate you. What's on your mind?
Well, I spent several years in law enforcement, and they would put out the bulletins all the time, and what the Supreme Court had ruled this, and then they had ruled that, and there was a decision right after they came out with the law that felons couldn't have a gun. There was a decision handed down by the Supreme Court. It's Haynes versus U.S. And the ultimate decision was Mr. Haynes didn't have to register his gun because he was a convicted felon, and he would incriminate himself by registering his gun.
No, I'm with you. I'm looking at the case. I just looked up the case as you were talking, Mr. Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
And they ruled in his favor.
Yeah, and whenever you look at that background form that everybody has to fill out, and I filled out a bunch of them too. There's several questions on there that if you answer them and you're a criminal and you answer them, you'll incriminate yourself. So, as far as I'm concerned, the whole document is a no-go.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, and I'm just reading it here, that part of the reason that they amended the National Firearms Act was because of Haynes.
Right.
And so they amended it to protect the federal government and their ability to ask some of these questions. But the states, Haynes still applies to the states, if I'm understanding this correctly. So the states don't have any ability to ask questions, but the feds do.
No. In my time, I've arrested several people that had guns that were felons, and not a single one of them ever went to further than the local court.
Right. No, it makes sense.
So that's where the system breaks down.
Right. Mr. Elvis, I'm glad you called and shared that info with us. That's interesting. That's a very interesting case that I was unfamiliar with. I'm going to look more into it.
Well, I'd appreciate it if you would.
Sir.
I'll get off the phone.
Well, I do appreciate you, Mr. Elvis. Take care. There's Elvis. And I'm compelled to tell you that Elvis has left the building. But Jay Harper's still here. It's news time on Super Talk.
Good afternoon. It's 1:32. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunshine. We're up to 83 degrees now. We'll get you that weather forecast here in a little bit. President Biden, he's in Italy for the G7 summit. The president expected to meet with Ukraine's president tomorrow. He's going to be doing that on the sidelines of the summit as opposed to directly at the summit itself. On board Air Force One on the way to Italy this morning, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, he confirmed that the two leaders plan to sign a security agreement between the U.S. and Ukraine.
We want to demonstrate that the U.S. supports the people of Ukraine, that we stand with them, and that we'll continue to help address their security needs, not just tomorrow, but out into the future.
Back here in the U.S., today's Bureau of Labor Statistic report shows that inflation was flat month to month in May, down 0.1% year over year, 3.3%. Likely not enough for the feds to cut the interest rate. They, in fact, have met, and that is the case. They will not be cutting rates as of yet. And News Channel 5 says a Realtor.com report shows Nashville, surprise, surprise, with the second biggest decrease in rent prices in the nation, 8.3%. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Tennessee Men's Clinic. I want you to feel as energetic as possible. I want you to feel good about yourself, good about your life. I want you to be able to go out and do as you want to do. And with that in mind, I want you to go to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Gentlemen, if you're feeling run down or sluggish, if you don't feel yourself, if you're wondering why that is, the Tennessee Men's Clinic can help you diagnose the exact issue, the cause of the issue, and how to progress in a good and positive way to get that energy back again. Wherever you feel the loss, they can assist you. Their urologist at Tennessee Men's Clinic are there for you. Low T can change your life in the negative, and getting it taken care of can change your life in the positive. Most men will experience higher energy levels, better gains at the gym, better mental clarity, improved sleep patterns, and yes, you will notice an increased libido. Men, I want you to make this call that so many others have made before you. The biggest complaint after the call is made is that they did not make it sooner. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for more information, or call 615-208-9090. 615-208-9090. Prioritize your health, gentlemen, with Tennessee Men's Clinic. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 138. John writes in and says, Mr. Elvis sounds like a good old boy and sounds 1,000% sharper than Joe Biden. No question about it, John. There is no question about it. Thank you, Elvis, for the call. And thank you for alerting me to this Haynes case. I'm reading up on the case right now. Haynes was a 1968 United States Supreme Court decision. This is interesting, and I'm a nerd. I nerd out on this stuff, so forgive me for nerding out a little bit. You guys come along. Nerd out with me on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. You can join in, 615-737-9986. So you had the National Firearms Act of 1934, and those of us familiar with Second Amendment issues, you ought to be familiar with the National Firearms Act of 1934 because it changed a lot of things in this country, including the requirement that you register certain type of firearms. And I'm learning this as I've been alerted to it by Mr. Elvis, but a man by the name of Miles Edward Haynes was a convicted felon who was charged with failing to register his firearm under the National Firearms Act, which he was required to do. Mr. Haynes subsequently argued that because he was a convicted felon and thus ultimately prohibited from owning a firearm, requiring him to register the firearm would be ultimately forcing him to openly admit to the government that he was in violation of the law, which was a violation of the Fifth Amendment. Y'all follow? Y'all follow? So he's like, I'm not supposed to have this gun, and you're telling me that the law says I have to register this gun. Well, if I follow the law, then I'm admitting that I'm not supposed to have this gun, and you're forcing that admission by following this law that I'm in violation of the other law, and that is a violation of my Fifth Amendment. You can't make me self-incriminate myself. And the Supreme Court agreed with him. 7-1 decision. For some reason, Thurgood Marshall did not participate in the ruling, but 7-1 decision. The court ruled in 1968 in favor of Haynes. Earl Warren was the only one to dissent, and he dissented in a one-sentence opinion. I don't know what that one sentence was. I'm just learning about a lot of this along with you. So just reading some of the synopsis of the case here, as with many other Fifth Amendment cases, felons and other prohibited from possessing firearms cannot be compelled to incriminate themselves through registration. The National Firearms Act was then amended after Haynes to make it apply to only those who could lawfully possess a firearm. This eliminated the prosecution of prohibited persons, such as criminals, and cured the self-incrimination problem. In the new form, the new registration provision was upheld. The court held, quote, to eliminate the defects revealed by Haynes, Congress amended the act so only a possessor who lawfully makes, manufactures, or imports firearms can and must register them. United States versus Freed of 1971. The original Haynes decision continues to block state prosecutions of criminals who fail to register guns as required by various state laws and gun registration schemes. So he is right, and obviously they repaired the loophole in the ruling at some point down the line. I'd say the history of gun laws in this country is fascinating. You know, prior to 1968, and it was in part because of the multiple assassinations of the 1960s that got this on the front page and got a lot of people thinking about it and gave the Congress of the United States the ability to act on it in a way that some would suggest is in violation of the Second Amendment of the Constitution. But you had, Martin Luther King assassinated, obviously John Kennedy assassinated, Robert F. Kennedy assassinated, and the cumulative effect was, and frankly, some would suggest the emergence of subversive groups that decided to lean on their Second Amendment rights, like the Black Panthers and Weather Underground. Like the Black Panthers, I was not around back in the day, but I've studied enough and read enough that they would start hanging around federal government buildings with guns because they could, armed to the teeth and whatnot, which led to the Gun Control Act of 1968. All of this culminated in the Gun Control Act of 1968. Prior to 1968, my grandfather talked to me about ordering guns through mail order. And all you had to do was say, I am not a felon, and if you had the money and said you weren't a felon and you weren't a felon, and they didn't check, it was on your word, they'd mail you a gun. 22, 12 gauge shotgun, whatever you like. And obviously all of that changed during the Gun Control Act. But these are relatively speaking, and I say relatively because 1968 wasn't yesterday, obviously, but these are relatively speaking fairly new events. It was not until the 1990s. And I want to say that it was the shooting of Ronald Reagan and James Brady, who got shot in the 1980s, that ultimately led to measures that required background checks for federally licensed gun dealers to engage in background checks. The National Instant Criminal Background Check System was mandated by the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act of 1993, was launched by the FBI November 30th of 1998. So it's only been, man, I didn't even realize it was that recent. Background check system's only been in existence for 26 years. And the NICS system is used by federally licensed dealers to check the eligibility of those who wish to purchase firearms. I do not know, and some of you more astute in the law as it pertains to the Second Amendment might. I don't know if this question that came up during the Hunter Biden trial has ever been challenged in court as to whether or not it's the government's business what I'm doing in the privacy of my own home as long as I'm not violating anyone else's rights. I'd be curious if that were the case. Speaking of guns and gun violence, a bit of a follow-up to a story that we covered yesterday and a story that has been covered extensively by Brian Wilson in The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It has been covered extensively by Michael Patrick Leahy. There is a scheduled hearing this coming Monday with regard to leaks that have been happening from the Metro Nashville Police Department or who knows where. These leaks have been going toward Michael Patrick Leahy, and some information has been, I'll use the term, I don't know if it is the proper term, but have been leaked to, or let's just put it this way, that Brian Wilson has his own set of sources. Michael Patrick Leahy has his own set of sources. I don't know if Wilson, I was unable to catch the show yesterday, I was out of town, but I don't know if Brian has been contacted by the judge in this situation or anybody else in the case. But it necessitates reiterating that the public has every right to know. Every right to know the information that the Metro Nashville Police Department gathered during its investigation of the Covenant School shooting. And emotional appeals have no merit. I understand what I just said. I understand the gravity of what I just said, and I stand by it. The emotions of the moment should not dictate that the government has the ability to withhold information from the general public. It is a part of the function of the press that they act extracurricular to the demands of the federal government so long as they are within the law and are not violating the rights of other people or putting individuals in real and present danger or harm's way. The government, in other words, the government doesn't get the final say on all of this. The Constitution does. And the Constitution sides with the freedom of the press to openly and freely operate so long as they're not doing those things that I described earlier. I will once again reiterate my support for Leahy and my support for Wilson. And I will remind you that even if you are put off by some of the details, and I am, by the way, I count myself in your number. I'm glad that Wilson's on that line or on that wall. I'm glad that Leahy's on that line or on that wall because I don't want to be. Some of these details are more than just disturbing. They're disgusting. And I only need know so much to know that someone is mentally insane. And clearly this person was mentally insane. But she was aided and abetted by organizations and individuals, and we need to know these things. We need to understand how she got to where she was. what drugs perhaps were involved, what other support structures were involved, what could have been done along the lines legally to potentially prevent all of this from happening and to prevent the loss of life. You only find these things out through openness and freedom. And so we're all waiting to see what happens. And I would say this, we best as a community, and more specifically here in what we do at Super Talk 99.7 WTN, we best be ready to stand up in defense of and in support of someone like Michael Patrick Leahy, who has obviously appeared multiple times on our show. And I know he does some radio elsewhere, and obviously he does a great job at the Tennessee Star. So some would suggest that in doing so that you are standing up for your competition. Well, if that's the case, then so be it. We will do so. We will do so. Because the point is more important, that without these individuals that are willing to provide truth to you, the government will consume information and it will shield that information from you. 615-737-9986. It's 150. More calls coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for the Glock store. Ladies and germs, what a great event we had recently at the one and only Glock store. I mean, it is a fabulous time. And the Glock store is always doing something. They're always moving and shaking over there. They have the best facility around. I absolutely love what they do at the Glock store, and I love everything that they did for us during the open house. And now I want you to go by if you missed the open house. If perhaps you weren't able to stop by, if you're looking for more from the Glock store, it is time, folks. They've got great deals galore. They've got Glocks galore. They've got custom-made Glocks. They've got accessories. They've got everything that you can imagine for the Second Amendment in the retail space, and they have training facilities waiting for you. Have you toured the shooting rooms? Much different than that typical lane environment. The shooting rooms are going to give you a more realistic way to train to learn your gun in the real world, to learn how to shoot in the real world. That's what they try to replicate at the Glock store. Go to shoot270.com for more information in that regard. Of course, the Glock store, not only do they sell locally, they ship anywhere in the United States of America, and you can find a lot of those items right there online at glockstore.com, or better yet, stop by Airlane Drive just off of Elm Hill Pike. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the wonderful, the one and only, the Glock store.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
In the wake of today's new Consumer Price Index report, the Federal Reserve makes a decision on interest rates. Also today on Capitol Hill, House Republicans expected to place the U.S. Attorney General in contempt, and you Spring Hill, Tennessee commuters, be prepared to have some inconvenience. I'll explain at 2 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, that merits some explanation. Jay Harper coming up in just a couple of minutes. Hold on while I clear my throat. Okay, throat cleared. 157 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mr. Jimmy is in Shelbyville. Always a pleasure to talk to Mr. Jimmy. Hello, sir.
Hello. Who's I'm talking to?
This is Matt Murphy, Mr. Jimmy. Who are you?
Matt Murphy. Oh, this is Jimmy. This is Cheap Jimmy's photo man.
I know. I know who you are.
I used to take pictures of walking horses here in Shelbyville.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. What you remember mail order guns, Mr. Jimmy?
Yes. When I got out of the service in '61, I was in the MPs in the Army, and the airborne MP. I was the CID. I was on the United States Army pistol team a long time ago. I ordered a 45 automatic 1911 nickel-plated pistol through the American Legion catalog, and I got it. So that's ordering.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it was a different time back then, and I don't know that I would suggest that it wasn't better. I mean, there are some things worse, some things better. Mr. Jimmy, I got to run. I hate to do it, but I always appreciate and respect your telephone calls. If I misspoke on the NICS system, I apologize. The NICS system, the instant background check, is 26 years old. I wasn't talking about generally background check. I was talking about specifically the NICS system. I had a Super Texter call me out on that. I just want to correct the record if I misspoke, and I may have. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hang in there. One more hour to go on The Murphy Show.
It is exactly 2 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got plenty of sunshine. We're at 81 degrees. We'll get that weather forecast to you. The word of the forecast, hot. We'll get that to you soon. No change in interest rates. Well, at least for now. That's despite the fact that inflation it ticked down a little bit last month compared to a year ago anyway. Here's ABC's Elizabeth Schulze with more.
So interest rates as of now still at a 2-decade high. But really importantly, in that Fed decision, they signaled they're no longer going to cut interest rates 3 times this year. Instead, there will only be 1 interest rate cut this year. And that is a notable change.
On Capitol Hill, House Republicans expected to vote today to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt. Garland refuses to make public the interview tapes between President Biden and the special counsel investigating his handling of classified records. No charges were recommended, but in his final report, the special counsel calls President Biden's memory into question. And some legal experts say Garland can't release the tapes after Biden declared them to be executive privilege. But in Washington, House Speaker Mike Johnson said Congress, they've got a right to those tapes.
We have to defend the Constitution. We have to defend the authority of Congress. We can't allow the Department of Justice, an executive branch agency, to hide information from Congress.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, the city of Spring Hill has shut down a road due to a visible crack in a bridge over Rutherford Creek. The city said that Port Royal Road, south of Saturn Parkway, they've shut it down to a crack in the bridge. The city of Spring Hill crews are on the scene working to determine just how severe that crack is. Southbound traffic, though, it's going to be detoured to Tom Lunn Road toward Cadron Road, and northbound traffic on Port Royal Road, you're going to be required to turn around and take Cadron Road to continue on north. So that will be a pain for a while. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, folks, Matt Murphy here for Savory Spice. Holly and David are the local owners of Savory Spice with 2 locations to serve you, one in Nashville, the other in Franklin. I've been a customer and a big fan of Savory Spice for years now, and I encourage you to up your food game by upping your spice game and up your spice game at Savory Spice. It's more than just salt and pepper or garlic salt or onion. I mean, you know the traditional spices, the standard spices that you keep in the spice rack. Whether it's Italian food, whatever your variety, Mexican, they've got the taco flavoring that is absolutely incredible. I'm going to squirrel myself if I start talking about some of the different spices they have. But here's the bottom line. You go in, they have something for everyone. They also have different blends, and they have something for every level of expertise in the kitchen. So chefs shop at Savory Spice because they know where the best spices are. And it does matter. Just ask any chef in your life. Plus, if you are inexperienced in the kitchen and you want to get started, they have the Spice and Easy packages available for you. And right there on the package, you see how long it's going to take you, exactly what you have to buy at the grocery store. You don't have to worry about spices or, measurements or anything like that because it's all right there, convenient for you. Go by and see them today. Holly and David are looking forward to you. Savory Spice is located in Ellendale Market, in Charlotte Pike, in Nashville, and then one location in Franklin, just off the square next to Gray's Pharmacy. When you stop in, smell the smells, see the spices, and tell everyone that I sent you to Savory Spice. And oh man, Joe Biden continues to attempt to buy votes. I say Joe Biden continues to buy votes. In the meantime, the mainstream media continues to insist that if Donald Trump happens again, that they will be persecuted, prosecuted, and like destroyed, rounded up. What? Huh? It's my favorite analysis of mainstream media, the predictions, the dystopian predictions that they have about what the world will look like if Donald Trump ever becomes president of the United States, conveniently forgetting that Donald Trump was, at one time, president of the United States of America. Oh, but Murphy, this time it will be different. Oh, he'll be different. He has retribution on his mind, does he? So you're talking about a guy, he won't willingly give up the presidency. I mean, one, the guy's like 78 years old, so it's not like he could be president for very long anyway before he kills. Oh, well, he'll hand it over to Trump Jr. or Ivanka or somebody. I mean, there's always something with these people. But you remember, like, wait a minute, he was president, and he, regardless of what we think happened, Donald Trump clearly believed the election was stolen from him. And he will tell you that repeatedly, regularly, anybody that asks, even if you don't. And he left. Like, he didn't like it, but he left. And they're like, well, but that was his first term, and in his second term, he's not going to do that. Okay. Now, lest you believe I'm making any of this up, let's turn to our good buddy in the mainstream media, Nicole Wallace, who has recently, speaking of good buddies. Hey, Cameron.
Hello, Matt.
How are you?
Democracy dies in darkness. Don't you know that?
I do. That's why I keep it nice and bright in here.
Yeah.
To the point that it gets a little hot.
Totally alive right here.
What is that? What is that shirt? What is that? What's going on with that shirt?
I don't know.
I don't know what's happening
These
there.
are running people.
Are those three people running, or is that one guy seemingly in motion? Go look on Super Talk TV, everyone, and comment on Cameron's
None of
shirt.
those are Cameron.
No. If you add those people together, and they would make Cameron and or me.
I look like a bulldog running. Whenever I run, it's just it's like a rock rolling down a hill.
My grandpa, whom everybody knows, is my favorite human being that's ever lived on planet Earth, followed by number 2, Dolly Parton, number 3, you know. I mean, it goes from there. No offense, honey. But he would always say that he's going to take up jogging as soon as he sees one of them smiling.
They don't.
He said, if I see one smiling, I'll take it up. But he said, every time I see it, they look like they farted on themselves.
Yep. I will run away from something that is scary, but other than that.
If you see me running, call the police because someone is chasing me or there has been some sort of tragedy or disaster somewhere that I'm running away from.
Could be a bear.
Could be a bear.
Yep.
You know, I didn't talk about the stupid bear versus guy thing. Remember that? It happened like a month ago.
Yeah.
There was an internet question. Did we talk about that? I don't think we did.
Yeah, in the woods. Like, you know, would you rather meet a bear or a man in the woods?
Right. And the number of women saying bear
was quite high.
And quite dumb.
Yeah.
Right. Like but I don't have to worry about a bear hurting my feelings. I don't know what.
No, because it will maul you.
Right.
It's better.
Right. Well, it might not maul you.
True.
But with a man, you're just, men
are bad.
Men are disgusting. Anyway, speaking of women, Nicole Wallace had this to say about what she believes will happen if Donald Trump wins an election to another 4-year term.
I've seen that toast a bunch of times, but it landed very differently this year because depending on what happens in November, 7 months from right now, this time next year, I might not be sitting here. There might not be a White House Correspondents' Dinner or a free press. While our democracy exactly fall apart immediately without it, the real threat looms larger. A candidate with outward disdain, not just for a free press, but for all of our freedoms and for the rule of law itself.
So this was followed up by a clip from Rachel Maddow, who is also suggesting that not only will a Trump presidency equate to the destruction of the free press, but it will also lead to people like her getting rounded up and put into some form of re-education camps. So it's easy to dismiss these people as stupid and insane. But I also think that they're projecting. And I do believe that there is a leftist desire to shut down what they consider to be undesirable or misinformed media or misinformed platforms. I think, and I'm sitting here on this June 12th saying it, that if Joe Biden does get reelected, that there will be a movement to create government oversight over our internet.
That's not a conjecture. There's litigation happening right now on collusion between the White House and social media. Democrats love this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, well, we just want it to be fair. And what they mean by that is they want it to say what they want it to say, and everything else is fake news.
Yep.
And Donald Trump, to his credit, did that to them and said, you call us fake news? You're fake news. Basically, same thing. And I think the real lesson from this is, one, go outside. It's beautiful. Two, don't be a weirdo. When you say stuff like that, like Donald Trump is going to come in and he's going to just do away with the free press. Do you know how hard that would be to do in American society? It would be incredibly difficult because you'd have to get rid of the media you like along with the one you don't like. And so everybody at the end of the day is pretty much saying, I'd rather have more, not less.
Well, I've got the Maddow clip. I mean, I don't know if they believe it or not. Do you think they believe it?
No. This is a tactic to say,
so it's all performative?
You should be afraid, and that way you go vote for Joe Biden. So if I can scare you, and
so it's orange man bad.
Yeah, politicians across the board do this kind of thing. And this goes, the clip about Trump saying, and I talked about this when I was filling in for you, I don't care about you, I just want your vote. So he was being kind of tongue-in-cheek about that statement. Like, it was pretty clear from the context he was just kind of riffing, goofing around, right? Well, the mainstream media pulls that out and says, you know what? He doesn't care about you, as if Joe Biden or some other politician does.
Right.
And
what frustrates people is that they do this and they pinpoint this and they really focus in and hone in on this. And meantime, you have Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, basket of deplorables. You have them making declaratory statements about how MAGA is anti-democracy. Well, MAGA, if you equate MAGA to Trump supporters, it represents a large portion of the United States of America.
Like half the country.
Like half the country. They declare that and they just get away with it. And the mainstream media regurgitates it reinforces this idea that the fix is in.
Yeah, and this is where, and you and I have talked about this, the cancel culture from the left, the right has now sort of adopted its own cancel culture that says, well, things we don't like, we cancel. And this is what you get. It's just this mush of, well, I don't like it. I don't have to deal with it. So I'll take my ball and go home. That's just not how adults need to behave. And when we get this projection of like all the bad things will happen and you are doomed based on a presidential election, like, give me a break.
Trump administration officials have been sending babies and other young children. Oh, hold on.
This is an earlier clip. I screwed it up. I got a different clip. She's upset. She was upset because the Trump administration was separating children from other individuals at the southern border. Remember those times?
Mm-hmm.
I screwed it up. I pulled the wrong clip, but I do have the transcript where Rachel Maddow says, I'm worried about the country broadly if we put someone in power who's openly avowing that he plans to build camps to hold millions of people and to root out what he's described in subhuman terms as his enemy from within. Again, history is helpful here. He's not joking when he says this stuff. I think there's a little bit of head in the sand complacency from you, by the way, Smith. That Trump only intends to go after people he's already signaled out. Do you really think he plans to stop at well-known liberals? When Trump invokes the Insurrection Act to deploy U.S. military against civilians in his first day of his office, do you think he'll rescind the order on day 2? She means that he's coming after all of us. So we should be worried. No, I mean, I think this will just escalate. And I said about a month or two ago when we were talking about the polls, and Trump had a healthy lead because Joe Biden has been such a disaster. I was like, y'all need to be careful. They've not begun to fight back yet.
Right.
And this is them beginning their argument. They're going to move on the abortion front, obviously. They're going to try to get young women. And I've got a list of Joe Biden or Biden administration type stuff that they're doing to try to cobble together this Biden push, right? They were going to ban menthol cigarettes. Mm-hmm. Not going to do that anymore. Got to protect the black vote because statistically, black people smoke menthols more so than the general population. Student debt, they're going to keep pushing that despite...
Who cares about the law?
The Supreme Court.
I'm going to do some stuff.
Whatever. We got to get votes. What you talking about? The vape thing, I think the vape thing is designed to try to protect them from young voters. Medical debt, the credit report thing.
Yes.
I mean, these are all seemingly small things, but cobbled together, they think that they can potentially repair some of the damage that we've seen from a polling perspective on Joe Biden numbers, especially with younger generations.
Yeah. And if you recall the State of the Union, he's going to protect your snacks.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get full-size snacks. They're going to be bigger.
Yeah, not these fun-sized little deals.
Yeah. None of this, like, skimping me on my Bluebell. We're going to get the full gallon, baby.
Oh, what they call it? It's not, it was somethingflation. It was shrinkflation.
Shrinkflation.
Right.
That was a big issue.
Because that makes it easy to blame the companies for your faults.
Right.
When you make all the materials to produce things more expensive, the companies have to do something because they don't work on these magical margins that liberals think they work on, that they can just eat it. So they have to do something. So I'm either going to fire a bunch of people, I'm either going to go up on my prices, or maybe less impactful to my company's bottom line. Instead of 8 ounces, you get 6.5 ounces. And obviously I put that on the packaging, and then that gives Joe Biden the ability to blame me for something they did.
And so Joe Biden wants us to be fatter. He's like, I will defend your right to eat too much.
Well, I mean, finally something I agree with Joe Biden on. Yeah. That's nice. Cameron Smith is with us for the better part of the hour. We've got a lot of you holding on the telephones, Jeff. And is Jeff saying that I'm misinformed? Gosh, I was hoping so. That's unfortunate. Jeff, if that had been the case, you would have jumped immediately to the front of the line. As it stands, it's Larry's turn. Larry! What are you doing, Larry?
Man, I'm sitting on my back deck watching my 2 baby eagle out here.
Whoa. You said eagle?
Wait, did you say eagle?
Yes.
Awesome.
Every year I have baby eagles that land in this tree in my backyard. But this year I only have 2. But they look like B-52s when they're flying over, man.
So I need some pics, Larry, and you know where to send them. You got my number.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
All right.
But listen, brother, and first of all, I wish Cameron would actually turn 25 years old and make the rest of us feel a little bit better. But
I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can. I've been trying to get old for a long time now.
Well, Cameron, I'd love to teach your kids how to drive a John Deere.
Yeah, I will. You put your number online. I'm going to give you a call.
I got him. I got Larry.
Yeah,
don't worry.
Matt's got it. But listen, guys, I'm going to have to put duct tape on a credit card to hold my head intact over Joe Biden and all this crap. And first of all, Matt, I thought I was your number 3 favorite, so that kind of aggravates me. But
you're behind Dolly, tell you that.
Well, hell, who ain't?
I mean,
but
it's fair.
Man, I was controlling F-15s when I was 18. I was flying backseat in F-4s. And Joe Biden wants to threaten this country with F-15.
Oh, yeah. He did, too.
And nukes. He's got the nukes.
I know.
I love it I love it that he's playing. They love this. The liberals. I don't mean to interrupt you, Larry, but the liberals love this, right? They what? You think you're going to come at the government with your little bitty gun? We've got it. I mean, these are the same people that told us that like 800 unarmed individuals amounted to an existential threat to the future of the United States of America on January 6th.
Exactly.
I understand it was bad, but it's not what they're calling.
Oh. What? Well, oh my God! Hang on. Tell Bill to keep his hand on the red button.
Uh-oh.
This should be good.
Well, Homeland Security just announced that they have caught back up with 8 individuals that Biden's administration let in that have ties to ISIS. What about these 35,000 young fighting age Chinese that they let in that we don't know where the hell they are?
Well, it's these untold stories. You know, while the hashtag never CNNs hyperventilate over this lady that pretended to be a conservative but was really a liberal and got Samuel Alito admitting that he believed in God.
I thought you were talking about Jennifer Rubin for a moment.
Well, that too. So they hyperventilate over this lady that got a big nothing burger with this secret recording. Right. In the meantime, Larry and Cameron, we've got millions of people. We don't know who they are in the country. I mean, if you don't think the bad guys are taking advantage of this, you're fooling yourself. We've got Russian warships off the coast of the United States of America.
I got a email about that from a buddy of mine in the know at 5:30 this morning, and I'm telling you guys. First of all, I also want to say I love it when Mr. Jimmy calls in, but I'm telling you guys, it's not a matter of when or if we have another 9/11. It's a matter of when.
Well, I hate,
I mean, I don't want to think like that, Matt. But
I did a show. I did a show years ago before I got to Nashville. It was maybe 2017, 2018. And I was, and Larry, thank you for the call. I was going through a bad way, and I was a little bit frustrated. And the theme of the show was "We Forgot."
What did we forget?
Well, the mantra after September 11th was "Never forget."
Right.
And the theme of my show was "We forgot." I mean, we've completely forgotten. We misuse and abuse what was supposed to be an act of Congress that was directed toward terrorists to direct it to our own people. Our southern border is as porous as it gets. This was in the waning years. It might have been 2016. It was the waning moments of the Obama presidency. I mean, we forgot. And now more than ever, we are allowing things to put it. I'm just frightened. I don't want to predict.
Why are you frightened? Because there's hundreds of thousands of people a month coming across our southern border, and there is a press release on they caught 8. We've got it. You're safe now. We caught these 8 folks.
Of the 28 million that Joe Biden has let in, we call it the bad 8.
Way to go, dude.
Nice. I'm going to ask Cameron if I'm crazy, my analysis of the Hunter Biden trial verdict. It's the first time we've had an opportunity to speak since it came down. Guilty, guilty, guilty. It's 2:23. Your calls as well. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
President Biden, he's in Italy for the G7 summit. We'll let you know what he may be discussing. And also good news in Baltimore. We'll have those stories at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Jay, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to judge yet, but Jay just said something that I don't know that I can. I'm just going to have to listen and see. That's a professional tease, Harper, because I have a difficult time believing anything good is happening in Baltimore. We're going to find out.
Yeah, yes, you will.
All right. Well, I can't wait for it. 2 minutes, and we'll have it. Cameron Smith is with us on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It says here that Steve wants to offer a compliment, and so, Cameron, pardon me, I'll be with Steve. Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, Steve. Thank you.
Hey, listen, I've listened to y'all for a long time, and back when Phil Valentine was still around, I was a big fan of his, and even today, I hear his voice pretty regular. And
yeah, at least I know you. I know you hear him once an hour on our radio station.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. And it's just it's a good feeling that he's still around in that fashion. So, just compliment.
Well, good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you listen. I'm glad that you're out there, and I'm glad you enjoy at least hearing Phil as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It is. I've said this for a while, and when I go and speak, I'm honored to be invited on occasion to be able to speak to local groups, and they ask me. Invariably, the question comes up: how did you get here? And I always say that it will be an eternal difficult topic for me. I can't find the word. It's not oxymoron, but it's the reason that I came to Nashville was predicated on Phil dying, and I am so blessed to be in Nashville. So it is a little bit emotionally
charged.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where I would never have wished for the reason that I got here to happen ever, 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 but it did. And because of that, I have the blessing of being here and will always be connected in that way. But every single day, I know that this community misses Phil Valentine, and I only wish that I'd gotten to know him better. I had the opportunity to meet him on a couple of occasions, so thank you, Steve. I'll come up with a word during Jay Harper's newscast, and I'll figure it out. There's a word that I'm trying to come up with, and I can't figure it out right now. One way or the other, here's Jay Harper. He's going to tell us what good is happening in Baltimore on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon, 2:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We are now at 83 degrees with sunshine on Music Row. A forecast for you. It's coming up. President Biden, he is in Europe for the G7 summit in Italy, where world leaders are going to be discussing major issues. Of course, that will include the war in Gaza, as well as Russia's invasion of Ukraine. On board Air Force One on the way to Italy this morning, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirmed that the two leaders plan to sign a security agreement between the U.S. and Ukraine.
We want to demonstrate that the U.S. supports the people of Ukraine, that we stand with them, and that we'll continue to help address their security needs, not just tomorrow, but out into the future.
All right, Matt, here's that good Baltimore news. The Port of Baltimore officially reopened today, less than 3 months after the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. The tragedy created by a cargo tanker. It lost power, rammed into the bridge back on March 26. At the port today, Maryland Governor Wes Moore said thousands of people worked around the clock to get where they are today.
This team did the unimaginable by many. And instead of 11 months, we got this thing done in 11 weeks.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hello, folks. It's Matt Murphy, and I want to tell you about a very special offer from Craft Body Scan during this month of June. They have many offers. There's never been one better than a $99 heart and lung scan for you and a loved one. They're doing so honoring National Cancer Survivors Month. Cancer is a killer, folks. We know that. And oftentimes, sadly, it goes undetected and unnoticed for months, if not potentially years within your body. Before you feel symptoms. And that could be dangerous time lost to combat it and to win that battle. At Craft Body Scan, they offer CT scans for $99, your heart and lung scan. That is a savings of well over $2,000 off the regular price for you and your spouse. Early detection is absolutely life-changing, could be life-saving. Celebrate National Cancer Survivors Month by investing in your health and the health of a loved one. Schedule your $99 couples heart and lung scan today. Visit craftbodyscan.com. craftbodyscan.com to find out more. You don't need a referral. Just tell them I sent you. Would you do that for me? 615-436-1000. 436-1000. Be proactive and prioritize your health with Craft Body Scan. So I don't know who to laugh at here because I don't know where the decisions have been made. But I continue to be amused at how much the WNBA, that's the Women's Basketball National Basketball Association, and maybe this has something to do with the U.S. Olympics team and some sort of selection committee within the Olympics team. I don't know if you guys have been following this story. I've been following it. I haven't talked about it because it doesn't matter to me in my grand scheme of things. But I'm just amused at how much they have pooped the bed, and they cannot figure out how to fix it with regard to Caitlin Clark and all of this nonsense. Have you been following any of this?
Yeah.
It's funny.
I think it's hilarious that they were behind monster truck rallies in terms of attendance. And then you get somebody that's changing that, and you're like, nah.
Well, they just said yesterday, the selection committee that is charged with the duty of picking people to be on the women's Olympic team, and then picking alternates. And I guess Caitlin Clark got an alternate slot or didn't or whatever. I don't know. But she was not selected for the team. And a lot of people are like, wait a minute. She is already pretty good as a rookie. She's in the top 10 in a lot of statistical categories. I think she's 14th in scoring, but she's in top 10 in assists and three-pointers and a lot of these things. And she's obviously a draw. But she is also obviously white and straight. And apparently that is annoying to some people that follow the WNBA. I don't know enough about it to make a comment on it.
I think they're just used to not making money, and they don't know that they're entertainers who need to make money.
Well, and that was the thing that leads me to talk about it, is that they came out and they had a robust defense of their process. And they said, we don't consider, and it would be just awful, the worst thing ever, that we would consider whether or not a selection of ours actually got more people to watch. That was never a consideration. It never will be. All magnanimous.
That means you're a moron.
You're an idiot. You don't understand.
Just imagine that the Tennessee Titans are like, we don't do anything based on whether you want to come to our games. We would be like, what are you doing then?
Then wait, what are we here for? I could understand that if I'm a brain surgeon and for some reason we allow people to watch my brain surgery, and I'm like, I'm not going to change the way that I do brain surgery because you guys want me to. That's one thing.
Right.
That makes sense. But if the only reason that I'm there is that you're there, then I should probably consider what you think about what I'm doing.
That's literally what professional sports are. It's otherwise just a game people play for fun.
Right. Nobody wants to see you and me go play golf.
Right. It's not a thing. And the WNBA is acting more like that. Like, well, we are here for the love of the game. Okay, cool. Then it shouldn't matter whether you have any fans or whether anyone pays you. Like, okay, fine. I did like the Caitlin Clark, I think it's Angel Reese, like hero villain type setup.
And if everybody, all you got to do is get in a room and say, guys, just go for this. Don't take it personally and roll with it and be a heel and you be a hero, and that would be great.
Just turn it into professional wrestling.
Yeah, sure.
I'm all about that. Give me some story arcs and narratives, and then maybe I'll care a little. But
You're too big for your... How dare you bring fans to our sport?
Yeah. We'll get into fisticuffs over it. I mean, it's...
We've worked very hard not to be appealing to mass amounts of people.
You're already not the NBA. Like, you're just not. And I understand that people in our woke culture, we have to be like, well, it's basically the same. No, it's not. Every last one of those female NBA teams, I would love to see them play a top-tier college men's team and see what happens.
I was waiting for this argument from 7889. And 7889, I got nothing but love for you. But you say on the membersnutrition.com super text line, you've got this one wrong, Matt. The Olympics should not be the best women's. The Olympics should be the best women's basketball players we have so we can win the gold. It's not a popularity contest. Allow me to suggest this to you, that if the Olympics wants to continue to fade into obscurity, that's fine. Don't consider whether or not people watch. The only reason that we have the money to send these people to Paris in 2024 is because of the popularity of the sports that they present. The popularity of the sports that they present predicates the contract that NBC enters into with the Olympic Committee that provides the money that sends the people. If there is no money, then there is no Olympic team along the lines that we currently have it, is what I would argue. So I understand that you want to send the best. By the way, a very good argument could be made that she's one of the 12 best. But even if she's number 15, I think you should consider her popularity in terms of the grander arc. I'm not saying that you should pick a crappy player.
Watch this. We'll make this easy. Just on the Super Talk text line, text in the name of one U.S. women's basketball team players in the last Olympics. Just one.
9083 just put Z's up on the screen.
Right.
Sally said, wait, what?
Just one. All I need is one name of a basketball player, a female basketball player for the U.S. women's team in the last Olympics.
7089 says, I'm a big Caitlin Clark fan and would love to see her there, but on her merits only. She's 15th in scoring. She's 4th in assists. I think she's 3rd in three-pointers. She is the best rookie out there. I don't know. I mean, look, I don't care. I don't care one way. I'm not watching one way or the other. I'm just suggesting that if you need eyeballs on the Olympic teams too. Do I have anybody yet? Diana Taurasi. I've gotten that from like 3 different people. So I'm going to assume that is real.
Sure. Sounds great. I'm telling you, based on attendance numbers for WNBA, maybe you get a little bump in the Olympics, but like, come on. I can name.
I'm now getting fake names, and I can't, guys. I can't. I cannot say I'm a McDyke on the radio. Y'all ought to be ashamed. I don't know if that's a real player or not, but I think you should be ashamed of yourselves.
But I can name several monster trucks.
Cameron Smith plays women's basketball, says Jason.
He would say that.
Well, but yeah, when Cameron plays it, he just calls it basketball.
Did I tell you that Ray hung up on me?
Ray, Cameron Romney?
Yeah,
Ray?
I took a call from Ray, and he was real upset. And I said, hey, it's okay. And he said, no, I'm out, and hung up.
Why was he upset with you?
Why was he upset?
Were you being more Cameron Romney?
No, I was being good.
It was a whole segment of talking about how great Mitch McConnell is, and they just got fed up with it. And
no, it was the Trump. I know what it was. It was the whole Trump. I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I was arguing, hey, look, this is how the mainstream media twists this into meaning something different. And
sure,
I actually agreed with Ray, and Ray was like, but you say it with a smirk, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I agree with you. And he said that I spoke with a smirk, and he hung up on me. It hurt my feelings.
I kind of agree with Ray.
But I had a blueberry cobbler from blueberries I grew last night, and I felt better. So we're good now.
How was that?
It was great. Justine made it. It was wonderful.
I prefer a crisp over a cobbler.
I'm a cobbler, man.
You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
You know that, I mean...
Like apple crisp.
A couple of fat boys. We know the difference, right?
Yeah, I'm totally with Matt on this one. I'd rather have a crisp than a cobbler.
Because all the crisps I've had have been apple, and I don't love apple, I think that's probably shaping I have to try blueberry
shading
crisp.
Your position on it. Now, I'm not
You're not going to say no.
A phrase came to mind that would have gotten me into trouble, so
Matt.
I stopped saying what I was about to say.
You going to have a little gelato with your crisp?
Oh, man. Don't you feel better? You've had gelato.
Yeah.
You look like a man who enjoys a good gelato.
Yeah, I'm cool.
Don't you feel better about yourself? Because, I mean, when I eat ice cream, there's a little bit of shame and guilt involved. Like, I probably shouldn't be eating this ice cream because I'm trying to lose a couple pounds, yada, yada, yada. I eat a gelato, and I feel like I'm doing something healthy. I feel like I'm running a marathon.
I don't lie to myself. I eat Bluebell cookie two-step, and I'm proud of it.
And by the way, Jason also noted that you're not a real fat boy, because if you were a real fat boy, you would know that there's no shrinkflation with Bluebell. It's still a gallon.
Well,
I don't know.
I find the bottom of those bad boys all the time, so it doesn't seem real deep to me.
Dave said, I'm going to make a strawberry pie when I get home. Good for you. Apple rhubarb crisp. Well, you're telling me. Just bring me one.
Yeah, can we sample those?
We'll just go ahead. I mean, look, you're talking about two fellas that ordered moon pies and did a moon pie eating contest on the radio. We'll do anything.
Bad decision.
I don't like moon pie. I didn't think I liked moon pies before we did that. Now I know.
I'm largely indifferent. It's not I'm not going to seek them out.
Aaron writes in and says, I want you to respond to this. Caller Ray has a point. Cameron does come off as the protocol writer. I don't think he means protocol, but comes off as the maybe prototypical is what he's looking for there. So I'm going to go with that. Cameron comes off as the prototypical writer, smug, condescending, and probably needs to be punched in the face a couple times.
I think that's probably fair.
He said probably.
I only come off as condescending if you think of yourself as kind of dumb. And you shouldn't think higher of yourself. You shouldn't let what I say bother you. You should have confidence.
It reminds me of the complaint, the best complaint I ever got about my radio show is that, you know what your problem is? You always think you're right.
Yeah. I'm an opinion columnist. It's my job to have an opinion, and I'm pretty confident in those, and I hope you are too. And we can go and we can dance, and that's good.
Real quick, because I want to get to Brian Wilson here in a second, but do you agree with my opinion that I don't know that this is the Hunter Biden guilty verdict feels like a win for the political right? I don't think it's a long-term win because of the Second Amendment complications.
No, and I think I'm going to rejoice when Hunter Biden gets this thing struck down on constitutional grounds, and he actually ends up advocating for gun rights, which
Ironic.
I
just think I think this draws out Form 4473, and it is apparent to me that Form 4473 has some constitutional issues to it.
It does. You're correct.
49 after the hour. We'll check in with Mr. Wilson in just a moment, see what's coming up on the drive right after this on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Winding down the show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, this midweek edition. Cameron remains in studio with us. A lot of you offering your thoughts on the last Olympic team. By the way, I got a lot of that one person whose name I just forgot, Cameron, and I got a lot of Brittany Griner.
That was the Russian one.
Yeah, but I think they know her because of the Russian thing. I don't think they know her because of the Olympic team thing. I know who Brian Wilson is. He's the one and only, and he joins us for a preview of what's going down on the drive this afternoon. Mr. Wilson, how you doing?
Actually, I have to disabuse you of that notion because there are many Brian Wilsons. There are three of them that I know of that work for this company.
There's only one that I consider to be the one and only Brian Wilson.
There's the Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys. I mean, there's all kinds of Brian Wilsons out there. But I'm the one that does the show after yours. So,
well, at least for the foreseeable future, I certainly hope that the Beach Boys is encroaching on your territory.
No.
What is? Well, by the way, before I ask you what's going on this afternoon, congrats on the bird cam, huh? I mean, that's pretty cool.
I got my son-in-law gave me a bird camera. For my birthday more than a year ago, and I put it up one day and it blew off, and I decided, well, I've got to have to mount this on a pole, and I just sort of put it aside. Well, I decided I can take the camera out of the bird camera thing. It's got a little thing that puts it on a stand. I can take that, just the module out, and put it there where I can watch the baby birds. We believe these are Carolina wrens, and it's been fun to watch the little baby birds that are growing up in Grogu's garden.
Oh, that's very sweet. It's very peaceful, very serene, unlike the news of the day. Every afternoon from 3 to 7, you have to delve into that. What's coming up this afternoon?
Well, I'm going to start off by talking about the thing that we all saw coming. We all saw it coming a million miles away, and that is that there are 8 people who came across the border that have now been arrested. But they came right across the border, some of them illegally, some of them were actually screened by the Border Patrol, who are tied to ISIS-K. And that follows on the heels of that, what looked like a dry terrorist attack run. They were doing a dry run at Quantico, and those were 2 Jordanians. Did we not say this would be happening? Did we not say this would be coming our direction? And it's very concerning because right now, as our FBI director says, a lot of the signs are blinking red, and we are very lucky that we have not had an attack as yet.
Well, we'll start there, and who knows where the drive will take you, but Brian Wilson will be there hosting every step of the way. That's right after Jay Harper's newscast, which is coming up right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thanks to Cameron Smith, and thank you to all of you for listening. We'll be back at high noon tomorrow for another edition, a Thursday edition of the Matt Murphy Show. Until then, have a wonderful afternoon, folks. Hug your loved ones. So long, everybody.
Friday Eve.